In Auburn, Indiana, another treasure is up for sale. Its value to be determined by the highest bidder.
You now have one of the rarest opportunities ever available in your lifetime to purchase one of the finest restored Duesenbergs in the history of the world. One of the greatest Duesenbergs ever created and one of the finest restorations ever assembled on a Duesenberg automobile right here in Auburn, Indiana. How much would have been? Who give $1,500,000? Who give $1 million?
A Model J Duesenberg glitters on the auction block, and wealthy collectors who wish to possess it must pay the price.
I got $500,000 now, $750. Do you want to bid at $500,000 now, $750? I got $500,000 now, $750. Do you want to bid there? $500,000. Everybody give $750. I got $600,000 and now $700,000. You want to bid? I got $600,000. You want to bid $700,000. Lawrence, you want to bid the same two bidders? It's $700,000 now, $800,000. You want to bid? Now $900,000. You want to bid there? $900,000. You want to bid there? $900,000. Yes, see, at $900,000. You want to bid $1 million. Or you want to bid $1 million? Anybody else? At $900,000, you would have been $1 billion. Get your bid in. At $900,000, anybody else, you would have given $1 million. Would you give $950 and maybe you could help me get $1 million? Going once, $950. Going twice, $950,000. Anybody else at $950? I close the bidding right here at $900,000.
In the presence of a Model J, people tend to get stirred up. It's part of the legacy left by Fred and August Duesenberg, who grew up on a farm near Rockford, Iowa, just before the turn of the century. Mechanically minded as young boys, they became innovators of engine technology, but their first love was racing. The Indianapolis Speedway was the crucible where new designs were put to the test. In the 1920s, their engineering genius brought the checkered flag 3 times. In 1928, at their Indianapolis plant, they created the ultimate passenger car. The owner of a supercharged Model J could cruise in luxury at 115 miles an hour. In Hollywood, the Duesenberg became the mark of a star. Clark Gable owned 2. Gary Cooper's was goldenrod yellow with pale green fenders. James Cagney smiled behind the wheel. But the Depression finally caught up with the Duesenberg. Less than 500 had been built when the assembly line shut down for good. Duesenberg owners form an exclusive club. In Auburn, Indiana, they gather every Labor Day weekend to parade their restored Model Js before an admiring crowd of automotive enthusiasts. Owners love their Duesenbergs with fervid enthusiasm. Many are obsessed with perfection. Others simply enjoy the status that comes with ownership and the pride of showing off their treasures to the thousands who come to look. Some restore their Duesenbergs not to drive them, but to compete. Auburn native Phil Allison judges a restoration. Growing up around classic cars, he restores them today for wealthy collectors.
One of the best descriptive terms I've ever heard, and it's not mine, I get it from Gordon Buerig's book, and the title of his book is Rolling Sculpture.
They brought the Murphy convertible in yet? Yeah.
And I think that so neatly defines the work on these cars, whether it be the Duesenberg or the Cord, but they were such unique cars, and they are truly works of art. I know for years I was always hoping for the opportunity to get to do a Duesenberg. Now we have 3 in our shop, and so now we have arrived.
All right, today let's get started on dismantling this car.
Once owned by movie actor Tyrone Power, Model J number 391 has just been purchased for $610,000. Spruced up with a cheap coat of paint by its most recent owner, number 391 will now be restored to original condition from the ground up.
We will probably spend around 2 years on the car, maybe not quite that long, but it'll be close. And there's a lot of things in the restoration business that just can't be hurried. There are on that car several missing parts, and you don't go to your local parts store and order them. You've got to find them. And there will be several items on it that are going to be difficult to come up with. And if we can't find them, they'll have to be fabricated, and all this takes time. To do a total restoration, we're talking about dismantling the car completely. Then the rear end or differential, rear axle assembly will be totally gone through. The engine and transmission will be totally rebuilt. The exhaust manifolds will be reporcelained. The Duesenberg engine has an excessive amount of aluminum on it, which has to be highly polished. There's a lot of hours of just polishing and cleaning. And the chroming itself is a major process. It's a triple plating. And you first cover it with copper, and then it's buffed, then it's nickeled, then it's buffed, and then it's chromed, and then it's chrome buffed. A lot of times we like to have a car sit for 4 to 6 weeks just in primer. Then it's blocked. Then we put on maybe 4 to 5 coats of lacquer and let it sit for another 4 to 6 weeks. Once it's totally cured, then we'll sand off maybe 3 or 4 of those coats of paint and blocking it out. And then we'll put on another 4 to 5 coats, let it sit for another 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll probably end up sanding off 2 or 3 of those coats. And that's how we get the high luster, high depth finish. It takes obviously a fair amount of money to fund a project like this, and a lot of people are not in a financial position to do this until they're on in years. And some customers express concern that they're not going to live long enough to see the finished product. I think in most cases they're being a little facetious, but I can appreciate that when you look at a long-term project in your later years, it could be of concern.
Restored for the pleasure of those very few who can afford it, the Duesenberg lives on in Auburn, Indiana.